Fire Station 4, I move a due pass.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for a due pass. And we do have 3 people signed up to speak, and then we have an amendment to consider as well. So we'll go ahead and hear from the folks who are signed up to speak. First is Commander Sean Frazier, followed by Captain Albert Ortega, and then firefighter paramedic Ty Camp.
Hi, President Benton, councilors. Again, my name is Sean Frazier. I'm the battalion commander of the Albuquerque Fire Department. I work out of Station 4. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about this very important issue. We have a need for the rescue to be back at Station 4. We need a 2 paramedic transport capable unit for the North Valley and the downtown area. As you know, Rescue 4 was relocated in 2013 to the west side. We feel it's time to staff that unit again. We have 2 ALS engines in the city of Albuquerque, Engine 10 and Engine 4. They both share a common boundary. To have another ALS rescue with patient transport capabilities is critical, again, for the North Valley and downtown area. In 2016, Rescue 6, Rescue 3, and Rescue 1 have responded into Station 4's district over 1,500 times. As President Benton is aware, when the adjacent rescues are required to respond into Station 4's district, that creates the domino effect of having to backfill responses in the surrounding districts as rescues are responding into Station 4's district. We need Rescue 4 back in service. The year before Rescue 4 was relocated, Engine 4 and Rescue 4 ran approximately 2,200 calls apiece. Since Rescue 4 was relocated, the overall call volume for the Albuquerque Fire Department has increased by roughly 19%. However, Station 4's call volume in that same period has increased over 55%. Engine 4 is on pace this year to respond to over 4,200 calls for service and is essentially doing the work, one apparatus is doing the work of 2. We need to have Rescue 4 back in service.
Thank you, sir. Next is Captain Ortega.
Council President Benton, council members, my name is Al Ortega and I am currently the captain on B shift assigned to Station 4. I'd just like to take a minute to talk to you tonight about the importance of Rescue 4 being re-implemented. On behalf of Station 4 personnel, I want to thank you for your hard work and consideration in the re-implementation of Rescue 4. As you may or may not know, Station 4 and Station 13 are hazardous materials task force stations and are supposed to have a mirrored response capability. For example, they're supposed to have engines, ladders, rescues, and squads. That currently does not exist with Rescue 4 and Station 4. The emergencies that we respond to, gas leaks, fluid spills, tanker rollovers, and any hazardous needed trained personnel, both task forces are designed to have the mirror capability and the transport capable units that are part of the task force. The importance of having 2 paramedics on a transport capable unit as part of the task force is this unit is responsible for leading the medical division on scene, part of our overall incident command system, and responsible to the possible treatment, transport, and care of possible patients, as well as providing medical monitoring for our personnel entering and exiting the hazardous situation. Second, re-implementation of Rescue 4 on fire scenes provides a very quick and important vital resource of having the ability to respond to all fire calls in district quickly and provide necessary firefighting functions where every second counts. Actions such as possible patients, treatment, and the capability of providing rapid transport, as they being firefighters can gain access to the fire ground quickly. They also can begin vital search and rescue operations as well as being the initial rescue unit for on-scene firefighters. Currently, the paramedic at Station 4 is assigned to the engine company, and while on a fire scene, is operating in suppression capacity and would not be used as the paramedic on scene. And to speak more about the EMS component, I'd like to introduce firefighter paramedic Ty Camp.
Thank you, Mr. Camp.
President Benton, councilors, my name is Ty Camp. I'm a firefighter and paramedic for AFD at Station 4. First of all, I would just like to thank you for your persistent support in this issue of getting Rescue 4 reestablished back in our district. I'd also like to tell you a story. I can still remember his name. I can still see his face. He was crying. You know that kind of look that kids get when they're both terrified and in pain? Well, he had that look. He'd fallen out of a tree, and so our main concern, as in any traumatic event, was to transport him as quickly as possible. This is what we call a scoop and run situation. And as you know, in these situations, minutes and even seconds can count. However, since we were in a fire engine, engine 4, and the neighboring rescue that was responding from the neighboring district was all the way across their district, and AS had not yet arrived on scene, we had to wait and treat this little guy as best we could on scene. We were, however, to provide high-quality ALS care while we were there. You see, on engine 4, we have 2 paramedics. As we waited, my paramedic partner was able to get a history from the caretaker to rule out any possible medical conditions. While he did that, I listened to lung sounds to rule out a tension pneumothorax, which is a life-threatening condition that a paramedic can fix right there in the field. The reason I tell you this story is twofold. First, as a team of 2 paramedics, my partner and I were able to deliver high-quality ALS care on the scene. Second, that care notwithstanding, we were unable to provide this little boy what he needed most, immediate transport. So in closing, I can remember this little boy's face so vividly because I have a son who is almost his same age. And that, Mr. President, councilors, is what is at stake. It's those who are most precious to us, sons, daughters, grandchildren, the city of Albuquerque. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, as was alluded to, this station had a rescue, and due to very important needs on the west side, it was transferred back in 2013. And as was also mentioned, I believe that only this station and Station 10 do not have rescue. Station 10 is an older facility that can't even really accommodate one physically at this point. So all the more reason that I think we get Station 4 back with a rescue unit. You know, also just as a reminder, councilors, we did make this a priority in our budget process last time around. I know there are all sorts of priorities, but this one has been very important to me, and I think important points have been made as to, I think in this case it does kind of have to do with equity and bringing back something that we already had previously. So I do want to move a committee amendment number 1. We had some discussions back and forth with, and really some confusion as to some economic development funds that were being used, proposed to be used for a public safety purpose, but this would change the funding source for this particular item. And so this is committee amendment number 1. On page 1, line 22, after the term January 2017, insert the following, and we'll need additional time to staff and equip the unit. On page 2, strike lines 1 through 7, replace with the following. The administration is hereby directed to implement operation of a rescue unit at Fire Station 4 beginning April 1st, 2017, using existing general fund appropriations for fiscal year 2017. And then on page 2, after line 11, insert the following, that up to $175,000 is hereby designated in the State Fire Fund in fiscal year 2017 for general citywide fire department costs as determined by the fire chief, including equipment and supplies, fire facility maintenance and repair, and staff training as approved by the state fire marshal. So this directs the administration to implement Rescue 4 beginning in April 1st, which I think gives adequate time. We were originally shooting for January 1st, but that date is rapidly approaching. We want to give a reasonable amount of time to get this in place and get it up and running. And the amendment does also, as stated, designate some funds from the State Fire Fund for equipment and training and getting it up and running. So that's a one-time cost there. So I'll move committee amendment number 1.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for committee amendment number 1. Discussion, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only question I have, and I can probably address that question to the chief, regarding the reimplementation. I was hoping that we would see it sooner than later, because initially it was January of 2017.
Right.
Now we are looking at April 1st of 2017. Can that be done any sooner, chief?
President Benton and Councilor Sanchez, are you asking if we have the equipment and manpower and the apparatus in order to do it sooner than April 1st?
That is correct, because I know initially the sponsor had January the 1st, and I was pleased to see that date, because this district has waited a long time, and now we are looking at April the 1st.
Councilor Sanchez, January 1st would be a realistic date in that we have 2 of the members of the apparatus specification committee doing the final inspection on the truck this week. So I doubt we would get final acceptance of the truck and it'd be delivered to the city and then equipped in time for January 1st. But perhaps April 1st, if the funding were available to fund it sooner, yes, but logistically, January 1st isn't realistic.
January 1st is non-realistic.
No, sir, it's not realistic, but we won't have the truck on January 1 in the city ready for service.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? There was a motion and a second for committee amendment number 1. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? And that passes. And that brings us back to the bill. And I urge your support for this. It's something we've worked on a long time. I think we're clear that, it is very clear that this is a key location right on an interstate on-ramp. Key location in the North Valley will help cover for Station 10 as well. So I urge your support. All those in favor
Mr.
say
Chairman?
yes.
President,
Yeah.
just a couple comments.
Economic discourse.
Exactly. Just want to point out a couple of things, maybe give the chief a chance to talk a
All right,
little
keep
bit
it
about.
brief, please.
Thank you, sir. Briefly, tonight's GRT report. We built this budget at 2.9% increase. We're at 0.09. We are currently over $6 million short in the current fiscal year. That means next year's budget will have to be adjusted this year as well as next year downward. We also face a hold harmless problem at the state that could be $31 million if that is accelerated. I think Station 4 needs to be looked at. I think that a good case can be made for the possibility of putting that rescue back. But if these financial trends continue, which have already been realized for the first 6 months, 5 months of this current FY, we won't be talking about adding new rescues or clearing great backlog kits. We'll be talking about laying people off. And I think appropriating at this time for an ongoing reoccurring expense of $750,000 a year is like going to take a mortgage when you have been told by the HR department that you won't have a job in a week. It's not a responsible fiscal decision to do. What I would ask is that we look at Rescue 4 when the overall budget is discussed in May, and we have a little bit clearer picture of both the current GRT situation for the current FY going into FY18, when that whole cost will be responsible on a reoccurring basis, as well as probably have a better insight into the whole harmless implications. The chief has a lot of priorities in the fire department. Rescue 4 is certainly one of them. Heard him get up here and he can speak for himself that, yeah, Rescue 4 would be a nice complement to bring into the fold, and that we did have, of course, as you pointed out, that rescue unit there. But I think when we look at the totality of the fiscal impact, meaning that $750,000 reoccurring appropriation, if we only climb at 1 or 2%, that might be a third, 25, even 50% of what our new revenue is. And once we commit it, we can't uncommit it. It's very difficult to do that. So I would urge us to basically reserve decisions as far as allocation of scarce resources, the funding for this, until we do the overall citywide budget in FY18. I think right now that we've heard things about the rate backlog problem and even salaries for the firefighters. I mean, when you look at every 1% salary increase represents about $425,000. So now we're talking about taking what could be a 2% modest salary increase and putting it into Rescue 4. You all make those decisions. I completely respect that and understand the prerogative.
Thank you.
I just want to point that out. Thank you, sir.
And yes, we do. We are responsible for making that decision, and we are going to have a very difficult budget next year. There's no question about it. But this is and has been a priority of the council. We're going to have to find the funding for it, without question, and many other things. It's going to be an interesting process with the budget. And I know that everyone up here intends to work closely with Cal Chair Harris and our staff, and we can look at the history of reversions and all sorts of things. We don't really need to get into that, but over the years, we support the chief's priorities, but this is an important priority of the council. Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank the chief for his work. I think that you brought up the issue of dispatch also being a priority, and those are things that we need to look at during this next fiscal budget. We've got a shortage of police officers in the Albuquerque Police Department. I think we face some really serious challenges when it comes to public safety. We've got to make some very difficult and tough decisions. I don't see how we can continue to operate with the revenue resources that we are bringing this time. And I'm not sure if the administration would look at revenue enhancements. The people of Albuquerque voted for a tax increase for the zoos and the biological societies. If we continue to not increase revenues, we're going to face the same crisis that we are facing today, the police, the fire. We've got some really difficult and tough decisions, and how much can we continue to cut back in the city of Albuquerque without looking at these serious issues? But I mean, there's a tremendous shortage of police officers. We've faced serious issues with dispatch, Rescue 4. And there's a lot of issues that we need to be looking at that are priorities for this council and for the residents of the city of Albuquerque. But by standing back and doing nothing, I think we've got a serious problem. And you brought up a good point, Mr. Perry. We've got a $6 million deficit. And how we make that up with the GRT continuing to decline, I think is very problematic.
Question, Ms. Yara, there's a question as to whether the original version had 2 paramedics in it, lines 1 through 7. Is that contained in the strike through?
Mr. President, I'm sorry, is that page 1 or page 2?
Page 2, excuse me.
Actually, no, Mr. President, it never had that language in the version that was in legislature.
Okay, but this is calculated based on.
Yeah, so I actually got the estimates of costs from the fire department fiscal manager, and it accounts for two paramedics, so shift.
Thank you. But we're still on floor amendment number 1. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? That passes. Takes us back to the bill. Council, I think I said committee amendment number 1 previously, so clarify that. So we're back on the bill, and I urge your support. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. We're going to take a break for dinner. We'll be back in half an hour.
Ha ha ha.